meeting of the Village of Pinehurst Historic Preservation Commission. The purpose of the commission is to decide applications for certificates of appropriateness for new construction or major work within the Pinehurst Historic District, and to do so by conducting hearings and making findings of fact when such applications come before us. By law, the commission is directed to take no action except to prevent construction or alterations that would be incongruous with the special character of the historic district. I'm Eric von Salzen, the chair of the commission. I ask each commissioner, starting from my far left, to state his or her name for the record.
Richard Vincent.
Thomas Schroeder.
John Taylor.
Ian Lucy.
David Herring.
One member, Terry Lertz, is absent, but we have a quorum, so we can proceed. I want to alert you all to the fact that we are suffering some technical difficulties in terms of the projection of documents onto the various screens in the hearing room. We think we have got a fix for that problem, and we're therefore going to proceed, but be patient. Things may be a little bit less smooth than they normally are. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of our last meeting. All commissioners have been provided with copies of the draft minutes. Does any commissioner have any changes to suggest? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved.
I have just one thing for clarifying the record, where that vote was on both sets of minutes that are noted in the agenda?
Correct.
Okay.
May I now have a motion to enter the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. We are now in the public hearing. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. That means that anyone desiring to testify must be sworn in, and the commission is required to consider only facts presented in this hearing. The proceedings are video recorded. I ask the commissioners if they have visited any of the sites on our docket today and whether they have had any ex parte communications with respect to any of the cases we'll be considering today.
Richard Vincent visited all the sites, no ex parte communication.
Thomas Schroeder visited all the sites, no ex parte communication.
Eric von Salzen, I visited the sites and had no ex parte communications.
John Taylor visited all of the sites, no ex parte communications.
Ian Lucy visited all the sites, no ex parte communications.
David Herring visited all, no communication.
In each case that the commission will hear this afternoon, the staff will first present a summary of the application. The staff's evaluation of the extent to which the application complies with the commission standards for such an application or raises issues that require further information. The staff's comments on the application and, where appropriate, the staff's recommendations for commission action. The application and its supporting documents, as well as the staff's detailed report, will then be entered into the record. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question staff about the report and testimony. Next, the applicant or the applicant's representatives will have an opportunity to provide any additional information supporting the application and to address any questions or issues identified in staff's testimony. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question the applicant witnesses. After the applicant's presentation, if any member of the public wishes to present any evidence, either in support of or in opposition to the application, please come forward at that time and identify yourself. I will swear you in and give you an opportunity to present any reasons why you believe that the application should be granted or denied. Please remember, the commission is interested in facts that will help us decide whether the proposed work would be congruous with the special character of the Pinehurst Historic District. As chair, I have the right to exclude testimony that isn't relevant to that subject, but I'm not required to do so. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question you about your testimony. If the applicant or staff wishes to respond to your testimony, I will permit them to do so. Now proceed to our first case. will all staff members who may give evidence in this proceeding please stand, raise your right hand, and state your name for the record. Please stand. And state your name.
Alex Cameron.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, our first case is COA 2021-00214 involving 5 Chinkpin Road. The applicant or the applicant's representative for this case present. Would you please come forward, sir? If you just stand by that microphone and state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Yes, my name is Peyton Gentry, Gentry.
Thank you. Would you raise your right hand?
Okay.
Swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can sit at the desk over here, and we'll call on you after the staff presentation. Alex, will you proceed?
All right. Thank you, Eric. And as Chair did mention, folks, we're going to be a little more slow and deliberate in our actions today to work through our technology woes we've experienced. But this public hearing is to consider a request for a major certificate of appropriateness, or COA, for exterior modifications to the property at 5 Chinquapin Road. These modifications include the replacement of the existing vinyl siding, fascia, and windows. The property is identified as Moore County Parcel ID number 000-24677. As before us, the property owner, the applicant representative, is Peyton Gentry of Gentry Holdings, LLC. The request and background again, the COA is requested to change the exterior siding. The existing siding is currently vinyl, as well as the soffit and fascia, and the applicant proposes to replace it with a fiber cement style known as a hardy plank cedar mill, which will have a 7-inch reveal. The existing windows are wood and are proposed to be replaced with vinyl. No change in the color. White is proposed. The applicant has provided some exhibits along with the application, including photos of the existing conditions, to kind of show what type of deteriorating condition the materials currently are. The structure was built in 1896. It's referred to as the Casino Building, and it is locally designated on the National Historic Register. Staff is also, we'll see a photo of here in a couple of slides, able to retrieve, thanks to Jack Farrell, a photo from the archives showing the existing material, of course, being a wood lap siding. This request is before the commission as a major COA because it is a resurfacing building with a different material. Replacement of windows that are not compatible with the existing windows because of the material, and replacement of architectural details that changes the design or materials. Here's a map of the adjacent owners who received notification of this public hearing, and because this is a quasi-judicial public hearing, official notice was given in accordance with General Statute 160D 406, as well as the Pinehurst Development Ordinance. The subject property being located there and designated by the hash with the 5 with the VC designation over top for Village Commercial. It is in a Village Commercial district. And there you can see the property owners that received notification are outlined in bold red. Here are just some of the photos that the applicant provided. There in the bottom left, you'll see a very festively decorated photo of the buildings, obviously a very prominent location there in the village center. Just some photos there to the right showing the top there. You can see the condition of the soffit. Top right, you can see showing that the wood windows and how the grid pattern is. Down at the bottom, you'll see the existing conditions provided in the photos of the vinyl siding. Here's that historical photo that we were able to get our hands on. Thanks once again to Mr. Farrell for running that down as I was having to work remotely for a few days last week. You can definitely see the style of the windows as well as the lap siding. All right, our applicable standards, I'm not going to run through all of these, but they are provided on the screen as well as in the staff report that was forwarded to the commission and the applicant last week. Basically, the sections that would apply are changes to existing commercial structures, subsection, general standards, as well as storefronts. The overarching standard to apply is that changes in design and materials must be compatible with the character of the structure and congruous with the district, and that the paint colors be within the Village of Pinehurst color palette. Also, that any significant changes to storefronts must be compatible with the architectural character, once again, of the structure and congruous with the district. Snap-in buttons, as we all know with our current standards, are not appropriate. And substitution of inappropriate contemporary materials such as vinyl or aluminum panels for traditional materials is not appropriate, which I don't think really applies in this case. Next. To conclude with staff comments, again, this being a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing, the decision must be made by the commission and be based solely on, as the chair stated, facts and evidence presented as testimony during the public hearing. The request, basically staff doesn't prepare a formal recommendation, is what I was, a comment I wanted to make. The fiber cement lap siding product would appear to bring the structure more into compliance with the current standards than the existing vinyl siding. Based on what the applicant has provided, the cedar mill it closely mimics the texture of real wood. The size and dimension would also seem to be compatible with that with the existing material as far as, again, the depth, dimension, profile. The change in the window material from wood to vinyl is the one that is a little more subjective in nature and would need to be determined by the commission to be both compatible not only with the structure, but also, again, the overarching determination of congruity with the district and the adopted standards. Vinyl is a material that is currently present on the structure and the existing siding and some of the trim, and has been applied in the district as an allowable window material. However, we do see by what is provided that wood is the original and typically the preferred material for any type of replacement. Next. Next slide, please. So that's really going to wrap up the staff presentation in a nutshell. You see what the few changes requested are, and at this point, I do officially want to enter into the record the staff report with the attachments and the exhibit, as well as this presentation, as well as all the applicant's material that has been forwarded to the commission prior to the hearing.
Thank you. Without objection, the materials referred to by staff are admitted into the record. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Hearing none. Ms. Gentry, you've been sworn in. Is there anything in the presentation by staff that you disagree with or would like to revise or clarify, or anything that you would like to add in support of the application? This is your opportunity to do that.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything that I would like to change. You stated the case perfectly. I do have a sample of the hardy plank siding that will be used, a small one. I don't know if you can tell, but it has a wood grain. It looks like wood. Of course, it's a cement product, concrete product that should last far longer than I do.
I'm going to ask you to give that to Commissioner.
While you're doing it, here's another piece. The soffit and overhangs and trim will be, this is just a smooth hardy plank. It's just a broken off piece, but that's what it is. And by the way, that big piece, that flat hardy plank, that's what's on the side of the Pinehurst Resort Spa that was built a few years ago.
Thank
and it
you.
looks very nice there.
Those two items will be admitted into the record of the case. I assume you can do without them?
Yes, sure. That was just, I just got them to bring it to show you.
Appreciate it.
That's really all I have to add. It's, we we rented the building before we bought it, and we bought it in 2003, and The vinyl was already in bad shape. I tried for years to get a vinyl contractor to come back and replace it. But under the ordinance, they would have to make about 3 trips, put up all that scaffolding and do part of it and come back sometime later and do another part. And nobody would even, they just wouldn't do it. And I asked the former owner what was under there. What was under there was the original, as you saw in that photo, wood lap siding. And he said it was right, he decided to put vinyl on it back then, and that was in the 1980s. He decided to cover it because to replace all that rotten wood was going to cost a staggering amount of money, and the vinyl was, of course, a lot less, so he opted to do that. But now that vinyl has deteriorated, especially the west side, the side that faces First Bank, the afternoon sun just bakes that. And it's so brittle, you can literally grab a piece of it where it's sticking out. So you can't tell very well from those photos, but it sticks out in a lot of places. You can just crumble it up like a potato chip. So there's no hope for that. It has to be redone. So this is, the hardy plank was the best solution we could come up with. And I think it'll look very nice. I've seen Jake Burns at Carolina Siding is the actual general contractor that's going to do it. He was planning to be here to answer questions, but he had to go home sick today, and he called and said, I'm afraid I've got a lot of the symptoms of COVID, and since I don't know if I have it or not, I'm not going to come. But I have Brian Bennett from Lansing Building Products that will be supplying both the hardy plank and the windows. So if you have any technical questions, Brian can certainly answer all those.
Thank you. Do the members of the commission have questions for this witness? Yes, Richard?
Just one. There was no, thank you for all the detail in here. There's no pictures of the windows, so I'm just assuming, and another report says it, but identical window, it says in size, just 6/1, just like the existing windows on the building now.
Yeah, well, I don't have a picture of the new windows because we were waiting to see if we could put them in. I have some pictures.
Do you have photos there?
I have pictures of current windows
existing.
in their rotted condition. I think you probably already have those.
We do, so it's the exact, I mean, from all intents and purposes, same window, 6/1, just in vinyl.
I have one of his brochures that depicts the new window. Now, that one doesn't have the panels, but they can be done. And I need to ask him, but I think they go in between the panes of glass. So they're not snap-in, they're permanent. Is that right, Brian?
We'll have to swear him in.
Yes,
You want
can
to
come up,
swear him in?
please? You just stand by that microphone, and would you state your name, full name, and spell your last name for the
Yes.
record?
Brian Bennett, last name Bennett, Bennett.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. If you will come forward, thank you, and just take a seat.
I have, I think, 8 copies of this one-page brochure, if you'd like to have one.
Let's see if we can proceed to address the issue that
It's
Richard
more of
is-
just clarification. In this document, multiple times it says like for like, you know, so I'm just confirming that's the case. You've done a good job with all the other materials. We just don't have that window picture, but just confirming it's same size, same design, 6/1, just a vinyl replacement product for what's there.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small follow-on. Are the muntins, are they between the glass or are they simulated divided light?
They'll be between the glass.
Nothing on the face of the glass?
Nothing on the face, on the inside or outside of the glass. Everything will be between the glass.
Other questions for either witness?
I suspect this may be inadvertent, but on your exhibits 2.18 and 2.19, there's a large I assume is a fire suppression system there. You're not planning on changing that? That just
Oh, no.
happens to be in the way of the picture showing other features?
Yeah, the building has two sprinkler systems. We have a wet indoor system, and the one outside, all the way around the building, is a dry system, meaning there's nothing, no water in the pipes until the alarm sets it off, then it pumps the water into, otherwise, of course, it would freeze outside. So, but the one inside is wet all the time.
You're not making any changes to those? They'll
No.
remain as is, maybe you paint them or?
Yeah, we're going to paint the pipes because they've rusted. So that'll be, once they do that, we have to have a painter come in and paint things like the pipes and a few other things. I think a front door we may not replace. I'll have that cleaned up and repainted. It has double doors, and those are the original doors put on in 1896. In fact, these windows in there are the original windows, but they're not, they're single pane. The previous owner put storm windows on the outside, which look awful. It makes it almost impossible to clean them. Those things are old and you can't, only a few of them will actually open a little bit, so you can, but it's just an intolerable situation. By the way, this vinyl window, I told Brian, if we go to vinyl, I want the best top-end vinyl window they make, and that's what these brochures depict.
Might I suggest along those lines that you use a simulated divided light instead of a between the glass solution, which would look more historic? This is not a requirement, just sure would look better.
We haven't discussed that at all. I was told that they could have the frames, but there would be inside. I have some of those at my house, and you can't tell by looking at them, but it's wood, but it's inside, protected between the two pieces of glass.
Yep.
So
I imagine the window you're looking at has an option for simulated divided light.
It does.
Sure would look better.
Would
If
it?
you're interested in a better looking window, that would do it.
Well, I am interested, I want to have the best looking window we can get, the best one they make, and that's what this is, but, so what is that actually, is it a painted on, or?
No, it's actually a vinyl application that's adhered to
vinyl.
it's adhered to the exterior of the glass.
Really?
It looks more realistic.
Has a contoured look, not nearly as thick as wood, but has that contoured look to look like a beveled contoured piece of wood.
Well, consider that as advice from an expert, but unless the commission votes to make that a condition, it's up to you to decide what you want to do. Any other questions for these witnesses?
Other one we're talking Exhibit A 2.11. There's shows in the right-hand side of that, and we'll pull it up here in just a second so you can see what I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah. That's on the west side of the building where the sun,
Notice on that, there's a door, and then I guess you would call it a transom
yes.
pane above that. Are the panes in the door going to look just like those, the same configurations, and is the transom going to be the same configurations?
Yes.
Any other questions from the commission? All right, hearing none. Oh, yes, Tom?
Sorry for jumping in. We're taking the vinyl off of it, is that correct?
The siding, yes.
Okay. Is what's going back up there, I understand, is hardy board?
Hardy board, yes.
Going to look just like the vinyl that's there, or is it a different configuration as to?
The only difference is the vinyl that's there is smooth. If you notice that small piece, it has the wood grain. I could get smooth, but.
No, I'm not, my question is it, if I'm not mistaken, and some of you can help me with this, the vinyl looks like it's a lap siding. It's the way it's designed to look. I would guess that's what you would call that, right?
Yeah.
The existing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you put the hardy board on there, is that going to be the same lap siding, or is it going to be like a German lap or some
Well-
other configuration? Not a material, I'm not questioning
Right,
material
okay.
at all.
All right, I see what you
But
mean.
will it look the same as what you have right now, or is it a different style of lap siding?
It'll have a bigger exposure, so it'll have a 7-inch exposure. It'll be an overlap, just like, is
Yeah,
there, but
right.
it'll just be a 7-inch exposure.
So I
It won't-
guess
It won't
the-
have a Dutch or German lap look to it.
The original siding on the building was German lap siding, it just like that, which is what this will be. So it won't have that deep groove in it like you see in the vinyl, because that's an artificial gap, I guess you'd say.
That was my question. What type of lap siding is going to go up on that once you pull this down? Because I assume, and if I'm mistaken, correct me here, that you're going to pull the vinyl off, and then you're going to pull the old wood off, and then you're going to put up the new lap siding. Is that not the case?
It depends on, see, we've never seen what's behind the vinyl. It depends on what condition that's in.
Okay, so but you're going to overlay it even if you leave it on there.
Yes,
So none of the old will show.
right.
That's my question. So
That's my understanding from Jay Burns, who's the siding guy, that he can't, if there are places where the wood's just rotten and they can't nail to it, they're gonna cover it. And once they cover part of it, they pretty much gotta cover it all. And we know there are gonna be some places like that, for sure.
The
But
terminology,
my question is, it'll look just like it looks right now, only, I mean, to the extent that it can. It's not
Yeah.
gonna, you're not gonna go to German or something else where it's just,
No,
because you mentioned there was like Dutch, whatever you want to call it, Dutch siding underneath it. So that was my question.
the terminology for it would be
Thank you.
a straight lap. It's cedar mill straight lap with a 7-inch exposure. So there'll be it'll literally look just like what you see, just overlaid 1 inch. So one board's overlaid an inch over the next, and it's just a straight, no extra bevel, no bead, no German look to it.
Pretty much looks like what's there right now in the vinyl.
yeah.
That was my question.
Any other questions from the commission? All right, thank you. As I said earlier, if there's any member of the public who wishes to present any evidence either in support of or in opposition to this application, please come forward at this time and identify yourself. I see no one, and therefore, if there are no further questions from the commissioners, that concludes the evidentiary portion of the case, and the commission will now deliberate.
I'd like to make a motion.
Ready to do so? Yes, sir.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2021-00214, and find the proposed major work at 5 Chinkopin Road is not consistent with historic preservation standards, but is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the material submitted, and the findings of fact. The characteristic which is not consistent are replacement of wood windows with vinyl windows, and replacement of vinyl siding with hardy plank.
May I ask for clarification of your motion? Would your motion permit the applicant to follow your recommendation with respect to the buttons on the windows?
Absolutely.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I will poll the commissioners. Richard?
Yay.
Tom?
Yay.
Eric, yay?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Congratulations. You have your certificate of appropriateness. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you all.
The next case is COA 22-0002, present. Come forward, ma'am. State your name for the record and please spell your last name.
Catherine Pate, and Pate is spelled P-A-T-E.
And sir, are you testifying as well? Do you state your name?
Huckabee, Huckabee.
Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, please come forward and be seated. Alex, will you present the case?
Gladly, thank you. All right, as stated, this request is for the property at 90 Linden Road. Ms. Pate, applicant and property owner, along with Mr. Huckabee, the general contractor. Purpose of this request and subsequent public hearing is for a major COA for modifications at 90 Linden Road. These modifications include a rear kitchen addition, the addition of a ventless fireplace on the bottom floor of the recently approved two-story addition, an outdoor fireplace structure at the pool house, which is a detached accessory building, as well as an addition to the existing detached garage. Property is further identified as Moore County Parcel ID number 000014733. Again, this is a request for a major COA for the rear kitchen addition, a ventless fireplace bump out, an outdoor fireplace structure, as well as the addition to the detached garage. Commission may recall this subject property and that the fact that it was originally built in 1940. The two-story addition was recently approved by the commission, COA granted. A kitchen addition to the rear of the home is going to total about 150 square feet. Applicants indicated that all these materials will match the existing home. The aforementioned ventless fireplace bump out is proposed on the rear and downstairs portion of that recently approved two-story addition. The outdoor pool house, which is situated more in the front yard for this property, is where the fireplace or chimney structure is proposed. And finally, approximately 695 square foot addition, which would include a 410 square foot sort of second floor apartment to the existing detached garage in the rear yard, as well as to the back left of the lot is proposed. It's considered major work because it does involve new construction and additions that are not considered to be minor, as well as the addition of an accessory structure greater than 12 feet in any dimension. Here you see the public hearing notification map is also included in your packet and went out to the adjacent property identified by the red bold border. The subject property, again, identified in the hash located at the intersection of Linden Road and McKenzie. Here's an image of the presented site plan with a couple of call-outs that I added on there. I know it may be hard for most folks to read, but sort of the upper left area there, you can see where the pool and then the pool house, approximate location of the fireplace structure is shown by that red box and arrow. Again, understand it's hard to visually see. Moving down toward the center bottom of the image there, you'll see the existing footprint of the home. The box to the bottom left of that is the footprint of the recently approved two-story addition. This is where that ventless fireplace bump out is proposed. Moving more up and to the right of the house there toward the center back is where the proposed 150 square foot plus or minus kitchen addition. And finally, to the bottom and right there to the back rear corner of the lot, you'll see the notion of the hash marks of where the existing garage footprint is. The proposed garage addition is seen going over top of almost entirely that existing hard surface coverage of that gravel drive. Asphalt Drive. Here are some more images, again, have also been provided by the applicant and forwarded to the commission. You're looking at a proposed right elevation on the left. The arrows are indicating first on the left that ventless fireplace bump out, and then to the right where the window is, and a little bit, it's a little harder to see, but there is a darker border showing where the kitchen addition is. You can see the materials and the color to remain the same. The rear elevation is shown next, where you can see, as it's called out in the dimension of a little over 24 feet in length of that proposed rear kitchen addition. Above that, you do see extending from that roofline addition is an elevator shaft. Also provided with the drawing there is sort of the existing rear elevation, so you can kind of get in relation of where that addition will lay in the existing footprint. The detached garage here, the proposed elevations. The top one you can see the lighter colored, not intensified, is the existing footprint. The be to the right, so to the left is the proposed addition footprint. Looking at it from the front, and this would be looking at it from Linden Road to the back corner of the property with the garage doors, one double and one single. Below there, the rear elevation, of course, there are existing garage doors that are present on the structure, proposed to be removed, or changed and altered to the rear. You can see that on the bottom image. To the right there is where, again, it's going to be the back image of the proposed addition. On the right, you'll see the proposed left and right elevation. The right elevation, the one at the bottom, you'll see where the call out is showing where, looking at it from the viewpoint of where the existing garage footprint is and how the two-story addition fits in with it on the other side. And moving on to the fireplace structure, here's the elevation. I'll let the applicant help me out a little bit, but the front elevation would be looking at it from the home toward the actual pool house structure, I believe,
Yes,
with the
so
breezeway.
The back of the chimney would be facing Linden Road.
Thank you.
And one thing that needs to be corrected, when she drew it, it would actually be slightly off of the existing floor, so let me see, the back elevation, proposed rear elevation, should show the footings, so where it'll have to have footings to support that weight, but it'll still be under the eave,
Okay.
existing eave.
Thank you. All right, again, kind of a little bit more extensive list of our applicable standards this time, not to go through, kind of hit the highlights. Obviously, this is going to, the section that will be applied here is changes to existing residents. Of course, any changes or accessory buildings and additions must be compatible with the character and scale of the primary structure and must be congruous with the historic district. Height of accessory buildings must not be taller than the primary structure and smaller in scale than the primary structure. New outbuildings and additions should be located as inconspicuously as possible, most likely or preferably in the side and rear yards. Must not obscure, damage, or destroy character-defining features of any primary structure. Multiple front-facing garages should not dominate the front facade. And, of course, any smaller accessory building structures and other features, including patios, arbors, and pergolas, must be compatible with features of the principal structure and congruous with the other accessory structures within the historic district. Kind of summarizing staff's comments on this proposal, the kitchen addition and, of course, the small ventless fireplace bump out are consistent with the standards, as it appears that it would be compatible to the main structure, matching the existing structure in details, materials, colors, design, as well as being located on the rear and fairly inconspicuous as it relates to the property, being a little over or right at an acre in size. The fireplace addition to the pool house also seems consistent with the standards since it is compatible with the main structure. I mean, there's masonry features there, as well as other type structures that are somewhat prevalent in the district. The garage addition appears to be consistent with the following standards as it relates to the architectural characteristics and materials, because it is similar to the principal structure. One item for the commission to consider in determining consistency with the other standard, and of course, ultimately congruity would be the scale and as well as the front-facing garage doors. For scale, to put a numerical formula on that for you, the total area of the addition, the garage addition, would make it about 23% of the total area of the main home. That includes the recently approved addition, the two-story addition, as well as the kitchen addition that would be part of this request. The garage doors and the proposed garage is set back far on the light. It does meet all applicable building setbacks. And of course, the colors are not only within the color palette, but also consistent with that of the primary structure as well. Side note, the applicant's exhibits indicate that the proposed shutters will be operable.
And of appropriate size.
That's for you, David.
Got it.
So formally at this time, I would like to enter in all the documents into the record, including the staff report with attachments, any other staff exhibits, including this presentation, and all the application and applicant's material and exhibits that have been forwarded prior to the hearing.
Without objection, those materials will be admitted into the record. Do commissioners have any questions of staff? Yes.
Alex, on page 2 of 4 for the application, there's an indication that the application includes tree removal. Is that something that was part of a previous approval? Because I don't see anything referenced on any of the diagrams about which trees are going, if that's new.
We presented a letter of recommendation from Kevin Hart of the Southern Landscape Group. He is going to be doing our landscaping after we finish construction. So we do have, we gave you some information that had that in there. It was actually the survey of the property with the trees indicated, as well as a letter saying why we needed to remove the trees, that they were not good shape and have since worsened since the ice storm. So we've lost a lot of big branches, and they're older and in bad shape. And my neighbor has informed me that if it should fall on her house, that we will be liable. So it's kind of scary. It's bad enough.
The purview of the HPC. Sorry to hear about that.
I don't have that material. There's possibly, I know we had a flurry of activity getting items together. I don't have that, and I have not made it part of the request, this request before the commission. I do recall seeing in our discussions and meetings prior to the application and officially getting on the agenda docket, I'll call it a site plan that was prepared by the Southern Landscape Group, Kevin Hart. But I don't recall getting more into the reasoning or determination for the removal. That's something we can, depending on the reasoning for that, we can go through. What we can also do to kind of move this along is we can see what we've got and talk after the meeting, if it's fine. Thank you.
Alex, as a general statement, is the tree removal not a requirement for the construction that we're being asked to approve?
It all appears that it's all within the existing hard surface coverage, and that the additions that are part of this request would not require additional tree removal.
Well, there is one tree that he marked. It's right at the corner, if you look at the garage addition, between the corner, that's right there. It's right in that general area. It's too large. It looks like two trees, although Kevin said it's one. Two large pine trees, but they are blocking what he said was a Manning error hemlock that he thinks is worth saving. And these trees, because they have caused a lot of, ripples in the driveway. And by the time, we come back and redo the drive and we do whatever trimming that needs to be done to the root system, he says that they're not going to be viable.
To make a statement, because of the location of that landscaping, it would not require approval of this commission for that removal of that tree.
Just for your information, Ms. Pate, we can only decide what's been submitted to us at this hearing unless we continue the hearing, which means that the recommendations of Southern Landscape for tree removal would not be part of what we would approve today. I don't, you certainly would have every right, if you wished, to continue this hearing and come back once that material was before us, and we could decide the whole thing. There would be no need to submit a new application, or we can go ahead and act on what's now before us, and you can work with Alex on straightening up whatever is left to be done.
That's what we like to do, because, I mean, this is not happening tomorrow. We're not going to have a tree company come in. This is, just, we're trying to get ahead of the game by seeking the approval or whatever, and then working towards that. But yes, we'd like to go ahead and see if we can get approval.
But did I hear you say correctly, in theory, we could approve the construction, but not approve any form of tree removal since we don't know what we're approving?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Richard. No. So basically, you can approve if the commission chose to, the request before you, but that doesn't grant any approval for any additional tree removal that would fall under the umbrella of a major work, meaning having to hit the criteria of healthy 12 inches diameter breast height and along the street side, which is applicable on two sides of this property.
I had one other question. I don't know if it's appropriate for staff or for the applicant. On the diagram on Exhibit 2.1, which I think we have, the rear line of the house where the proposed kitchen addition seems to indicate that there'd be a straight wall, if you will, a straight line all the way across the rear of the building.
It's, I'm sorry to interrupt. It stops and there's a dining room, and it does stop short of that dining room in the back. It's just the kitchen, and then the dining room remains as original.
That's why,
And
so,
or Laura, if you could pull up Exhibit A 2.2, you can,
Right.
Okay.
that's my point. It seems like the addition does not go all the way across the rear of the building. So it's the outline that is incorrect, and that the proposed rear elevation is correct.
The elevation is correct. The site plan was depicting the existing footprint there. So 6 feet, correct, I think is the dimension out,
I believe that's correct.
6 feet, yes, sir.
and then 24 and change long.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
So Alex, accessory structure heights must not be taller than the primary structure, right? And must be smaller in scale, and it complies on both those counts?
Yeah, yes.
In your opinion, yeah.
Yes.
It does.
Again, there's also, which required a lot of calculation and revision, that Ms. Pate, Mr. Huckabee, and also Ms. Welch did tremendously, unfortunately, while I was also having to work remotely that day, to do some calculations. There is a governor in the development ordinance that is a cumulative total as well, that floor area of accessory buildings cannot exceed 30% of that of the primary dwelling. So that had to get shook out before we could even forward this request. So yes, the sum of the garage, proposed garage addition, as well as that pool house, cumulatively together add up to less than 30, or right almost at 30% of the proposal here. So that's why I put the 23%. So it is smaller in scale. It doesn't, our standards don't say what that threshold is or where it should be measured.
Also, the standard says that accessory buildings additions must be located as inconspicuously as possible in the rear or side yards. Compliance with that?
It is.
So, is the garage, is that addition though more forward than the home? Front, no?
In-
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon, or Lori. So if you could, it might be hard to see the cursor, could you kind of circle around there in the bottom right? There we go. So there's your garage, existing and proposed footprint. The front is, again, this is a corner lot, so it has street frontage on both Linden Road as well as,
McKenzie.
Mackenzie, thank you, Ms. Bates. I've been there enough, I should know. So yes, that is located both in the rear and right there at, almost at the threshold of getting to the side. If you were to draw if you could, a perfectly straight line closely as parallel to that back lot line as you could from that corner of the house, that's kind of right there near the drive, straight across, it would still be behind that building line.
Yep, yeah, okay.
Now,
Or
one
else you
thing,
would call back on that other.
y'all mind if
where
I
it
make
is.
a comment? We did have a concerned neighbor mention that was concerned about the size of what are now existing doors
Right.
being moved to the back, that we are planning to use that as just a cart barn. We both have golf carts. So we really just need doors large enough for golf cart. If he prefers that we go smaller, I wanted to kind of put that to y'all because we, in the plan, have the existing doors moved to the back. So I wanted to have that option.
Is that's one of the staff caveats or whatever, right? Is that
Yeah.
the front-facing garage doors and the scale?
Well, this would be on the back.
This would be on the back, but yeah, there is a standard that says that multiple front-facing
Right.
garages. I know the genesis of that standard, where it came from and what its intent was. I don't think it was really meant to be applicable in this type of case, but you can read it to be interpreted that it potentially could be.
So it would ask that we would have the option of being able to size down on those two doors to make him happy, so.
Any other questions? Richard?
You mentioned a comment in Alex's staff report, something about the pool house and maybe a foundational wall, and that exhibit was incorrect. You lost me on that.
Okay, when you look at I don't know which number illustration it is, but when you look at the rear elevation of the proposed fireplace on the back of the pool house, when she drew it, I don't think she realized we need the foundation for that. I mean, you can't just sit it on top of the existing, flooring. It is brick, but I don't think it's built to support the weight. So what we were going to do is have the hearth on the existing floor, but need to have footings to support the actual chimney itself, And of course, the wood boxes could be, either forward or back or whatever, but we need to have footings. So, and that would still fit under the eave. So the chimney would indeed go through the roof as shown, but she just didn't show how that footing would go down.
Got it.
It will not change the appearance at all.
So instead of
It'll just fundamentally be a footing under the chimney that we plan
subterranean,
to do.
It's-
she's
yeah.
not hashed out something that's under the ground that we wouldn't see with our eye.
And it is a brick foundation that shows around so it would blend.
Okay. Thank you.
Got one. I just want to clarify with Alex, the tree question. If we don't address the trees tonight, would they have to come back to us to get permission to do what they're talking about in the rest of that drawing we haven't seen?
Maybe. As I stated earlier, it'd have to meet those thresholds of
12 inches
the
breadth,
size
height.
and diameter and location and healthy, whether or not if it's healthy. If they're dead, diseased, or dying based on, someone competent in the field that prepares a report, then, yeah, it may be something that requires no approval at all, or could potentially be a minor COA. It just depends, and looking at all the material,
It would be a minor COA that would not necessarily have to come back to us. If, let's say there's a 12-inch plus tree involved in that, then it would come back as a, what?
A healthy 12-inch or greater at diameter breast height tree that is located anywhere in that street yard, street side yard, side, not thinking left or right side, just street side yard, would be a major work.
These are not street side, just FYI. They're along the side property line, just FYI. But I understand.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on, because I didn't see what you saw, so that's why I'm asking.
I don't know that I have to, I'm sorry.
I think the intent was, if there's a way we can cover that and get you there through description, but we can't, so, yeah.
Question comes down whether it's
To
a
that,
minor.
Alex, sir, I'm sorry that we did not get that letter from Kevin Hart at Southern Landscape Group to you, and I can furnish that. I can't furnish it, it's in my phone.
And
But it is a definitive statement about the condition of that tree. It's not just a convenience to take it down. The condition of the tree and its impact on that area is what he recommended to us, and he has a convincing statement there. I'll get that to you as soon as possible.
no need to apologize. You very well may have sent it to him.
I
We've
think
been
we
in a lot of
did, but we had a
communication.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's easy to get lost
We've been
in the
talking a
shuffle.
lot the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I just was trying to understand where we were at with that.
Well, if they have that letter, can we include that as part of our approvals then? Condition on the letter?
We make a decision on, it's my understanding, it's up to the chair to make the rule, but if we make a decision on it, this COA is closed,
That's correct.
without the tree
And
discussion.
we have to make a decision based on the materials that are before us right now,
I understand.
unless we continue the case, which I think you indicated you wouldn't like to do.
Well, we might have to come back again, not with Mr. Huckabee, but with Kevin Hart, because he is going to draw up a landscape design plan, and I'm sure that's going to need approval. So, you'll
we'll
probably
be-
see me as much, again, I'm sure you don't want to do that, but.
We'll be very happy to see you. I don't know how happy you will be to see us.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from commissioners?
I hate to bring up shutters again.
That's okay.
On the garage addition and the kitchen addition, you have a composition of 3 windows together. And outboard of those conditions, you have a shutter on each side.
And we have asked for, a change from the louvered, plastered on the side of the house shutters, which we removed for painting, to board and batten that are going to be, have the hardware to operate and be the right size for the windows.
That really zeroes in on my question. What is the right size? You have 3 windows in a row. If the shutters were in fact closed, would they cover all 3 windows?
Not all 3, they will be the size that we've covered the first ones. I mean, they're decorative. I mean, we all,
They
they'd
would be
decorative.
sized to cover the 2 outboard windows.
That's right, and we're trying to get back to more the cottage feel of the house that I'm sure was original, and so that's why we wanted the board and batten with a little tree cut out for Edgewood Cottage, kind of being hokey there, but, we were just trying to make it look, because if you may have seen pictures of the original house with those louvered, stuck on the wall, black shutters, it's just not appropriate, so I think we're trying to make it look good.
That brings me to the original garage which this is an existing condition, just to bring to your attention. The 2 windows on the side of the existing garage each have 2 shutters, each one big enough for the window.
Those, if you look, that's actually proposed windows. Right now, there is a door, and there is a window on the back side, but I think those, if you'll notice, those are proposed windows.
I'm looking at exhibit
That one
Yeah,
right there.
please give us an exhibit so we can follow you.
A 2.5.
And she was making those bold to try to show those would be new windows, because right now it's just a single door in the middle.
I see. So I guess my question would be, why do you have two shutters, each big enough to do the job for each window? If they were
I don't-
realistic shutters that actually operated, you might have one for each window as opposed to two.
Well, she just drew them in. Like Alex said, we were hustling, trying to meet the deadline. So she was trying to show that we will have shutters, that she was hustling.
You'd be
It was a
okay with
last-minute
a
thing.
single shutter on each window?
I don't know. I mean, we'll do it so it looks right, I mean, whatever.
That each shutter would basically be half the width of the window.
In this
Exactly.
case, the windows are quite narrow, so either they're very narrow shutters, which I think would not look authentic, or there's just one of them. Talking about the one-story existing garage, there are two windows shown on the elevation. Each of those two windows, each of them has two shutters. Each of those two shutters is big enough for the whole window.
That's what I was stating, is that what you're asking would be for each shutter to be 1/2 the width of each window.
Not exactly. I'm
Enough.
suggesting that you have only one shutter for each window.
That's a new one on me.
It's a narrow window. Only one shutter is needed and would be authentic. Alternately, you could have two shutters that would be half as wide as you've drawn, which I think might not look so good. Your call. It has to match the window.
But we
one way
haven't
or
ordered
other.
the windows yet, so there's some fluctuation there, as far as if, we need to make the window a little wider, or I don't know. We'll make it look right. I'm not going to have a house that looks shoddy.
But we have
if
to
I can
choose
help
something
it.
to approve.
David, are you directing that the shutters cover half of the window area?
That's
Each
one
shutter
option.
Covers half the window area.
That's one option.
Either that or no shutter at all.
That's a third option.
Beg your pardon?
That would be a third option. The second option would be just one shutter
On one end?
on one side of the window,
It would be the
That.
width of the window.
width of the window. It's entirely up to you. All three would work, provided that the shutters in the closed position would cover the window, whether it's one shutter or two shutters. In my mind, the most authentic one, the most cottage-looking one, would be the window as you have it drawn with one shutter.
The outside
On
to make
the
it
kitchen,
symmetrical.
On the kitchen area.
It's talking about
Garage.
The garage on the existing.
garage.
On the garage.
On the existing, where she's had added the two windows.
Are we on the same page? That top drawing?
Yes.
That has the two windows that are on the
Right-hand side.
side of the existing garage facing the kitchen.
Yes.
Yes.
It is our proposal that those, she may not have them drawn to scale, but they would only be a pair of blinds that would be appropriate for that size window.
Okay, that works. About
Okay?
half as.
No, I see, I think I can see that is wider, but that's just that's not to scale. We would appropriately design that shutter to cover half the window.
I follow. Thank you. That's all I got.
Any other questions from commissioners? Ms. Pate, Mr. Huckabee, do you have anything to add in support of your application? If not, then again, to the members of the public, if anyone wishes to testify either in support of or in opposition to this application, please come forward and identify yourself. I see no volunteers, and therefore that concludes the evidentiary portion of this case, and the commission may now deliberate.
I'd like to discuss a little bit unusual case of having a window comprising three separate sashes, as is being proposed here, where the shutters are designed to fit only the outboard 2 sashes. I don't think we've encountered this before. Technically speaking, that wouldn't cut the requirement of meeting the guidelines, the standards.
And what exhibit are you reading from?
There's an example on A2.2 and another example on A2.5. There are a total of 3 such cases, 2 on the kitchen edition and 1 on the garage edition. All 3 are similar. I should also point out that on the existing house, on the front side, in the little photograph, you can see that there's already a condition, a window condition that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like 6 sashes with shutters sufficient for 2 of the 6. So this is a little strange.
Well, that's an existing situation, correct?
It is.
We don't have to worry about that today, right?
True. I guess I'm just saying, in order to be the same, similar to what exists on the existing house, we would have to consider doing something which would be against the standards. And we haven't faced this before.
Standards say that it must be
Must be.
operational?
No, not operational. Must match the window. Must be, for example, if there are 2 shutters, be half as wide. If it's an arch top, it's got an arch top shutter, and so on.
But I just refresh what the actual requirement is. It's on. I was talking, sorry.
If you look also, now that I look at this, on the kitchen elevation, where this is on A2.2, above the kitchen addition roof, there's a window comprising 4 sashes with shutters sufficient to cover 2 of the 4 sashes. To the left of the elevator, you can see a condition of comprising 4 windows with no shutters. So we have quite a mixture.
What would your solution be?
I don't know if I have a solution.
I'm not sure I would either. If some of the existing are that way, to make the rest of them fit might not be a good idea either.
Or might be, it's more consistent with the existing house.
That's what I'm saying, leave it consistent with, what they have is more consistent with the existing house. To
And
change
the only bulletproof solution is to remove all the shutters.
that's
Problem
outside-
gone.
Yeah, with that,
Which is also consistent. There are many windows on the house that have no shutters.
Obviously, these windows are not original. You know, they had and the house was built in 1917, so it's not, I think the garage may have been built in 1940, but this was one of the original. So it used to have the double hungs.
Right.
And someone in the 70s or whoever, changed them. So that's what we're dealing with.
What we do is we have 2 separate sections in the standards.
okay?
One applicable to changes to existing residences. All right, and under that, there is a section of shutters and awnings where it talks about the addition of new shutters, like if you're adding a new shutter to an existing residence. The other separate section, which is pulled out in the staff report and just kind of touched on with the initial presentation there, is that the standards for additions, which are all pulled out, which don't mention specifics about shutter size or width, or colors for that matter. The overarching standard is that new shutters must be compatible, sound familiar with the existing structure and congruous with the district, right? Further down, shutters should be wood or have the appearance of wood and composition, there's that word again, texture, et cetera, and appropriately mounted. Each shutter, and this is a must for when we're doing our document change later, that is not bold.
Okay.
Equal to the height of the window opening and 1/2 the width.
So it's a must be equal to half the width.
If there are two
And the
shutters.
same height as the window.
There's no differentiation between 3, 2,
Right.
1.
I guess from an architectural standpoint, the windows essentially are a contemporary revision to the original double hung. It would be normal for windows of this type to have no shutters. It's a more contemporary look without shutters at all, which brings us to this problem we have of how do you do a shutter on something that isn't really designed for one from an architectural standpoint. What would you like to do?
I would like to try to make it a little more cottagey, do the board and batten. We got permission to repaint, change color, so we are doing the Terrytown green. I wanted to do, I've got the front door painted that, and I would like to have the shutters and the board and batten with the little tree cut out, to make it, and in places that look appropriate, where possible, maybe I should put it that way.
I guess from a strictly standards point of view, it exists on the existing house. It's compatible with the existing house, no matter how consistent it is with history.
Isn't the only place in town where that exists either.
Right.
Kind of have standards that almost say, one says this, but the other, on the other hand, says that. So that's where you can.
Exception.
Exactly, you can
Yeah.
make your determination if it's the desire of the commission be stated in the motion.
And I don't like the inconsistency of what we may be about to approve, but I'm not sure I see an alternative to it because there is no consistency in what already exists. We can't
Right.
sort of
And it's not
impose
right.
consistency where it doesn't exist.
For me, it's not historically correct anyway, although that has no place
Agreed.
in our standards.
David, I agree with you, not necessarily on historical grounds, but simply, aesthetic grounds. I dislike, but have on my own house, situation with 3 windows and 2 shutters, and they would cover the outer 2 windows and leave the middle window uncovered. Since they can't be moved anyway, it doesn't make a practical difference. I don't like it. On the other hand, I'm not going to go to the trouble of changing it, and I don't. And if I ever have to come before this commission, I guess you may tell me that I have to do that. But
I guess from a regulatory standpoint, I don't see any way we can prevent Ms. Payton from doing what she's drawn. I'm just bringing it up for discussion to see if, make sure we're all aware.
Alex, if we were to approve what has been proposed and on further consideration, the applicant were to desire not to put any of the shutters on in these 3 windows, can they not go through with that? Does that require a separate?
I think the absence of installing the shutters would not cross a threshold of having to be re-reviewed.
It would not invalidate
without
the
shutters.
COA.
Correct.
We could make a condition
You-
allowing the option of no shutters.
I don't even think you have to condition that necessarily on approval. It could just be made matter of the record. We've obviously got on record, we're discussing it, or you guys are discussing it as a matter of commission. And that your motion could be to approve with or without.
The removal of shutters, basic work anyway? So,
If we approve without, they can't add them.
If you prove it solely without, the addition of shutters would then have to meet the standards, and it looks like
Right.
this would meet one, but not another.
I don't wish to shut off debate, but I would be prepared to attempt a motion.
please do. We can always debate the motion.
That's right.
Hope we don't.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2022-02, and find the proposed major work at 90 Linden Road not consistent with historic district standards, but is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the materials submitted, and the findings of fact. The condition that I would specifically list is although there's a notation in the application for tree removal, we are not approving tree removal of any kind. And I would certainly note for the record that the applicant has some flexibility in deciding subsequently not to install shutters at all.
Is there a
Could I-
second?
Second. Could I offer a friendly amendment? There was a suggestion by Ms. Pate that you might wish to install smaller garage doors on the backside, I guess, backside of the garage. Could we include that as allowable?
I would, but my understanding was you were moving the existing to the rear, not because you need them that, but you just are preserving the existing doors.
That was my intention, but, if my neighbor has concerns, of course, I want to, consider. So I was going to say you have the option of making, getting smaller doors. We have not talked to
Specifically, from a standard size old garage door, which I think is 8 feet in width, to something like a golf cart door, about approximately 6 feet in width, to satisfy the neighbor. He wanted smaller doors on the back of that building.
I'm not going to speak for the chair, but we have to decide on what's in front of us and the testimony. So I don't think anyone would have an issue, me personally, going smaller. I think there would just need to be some specificity as to what that is. So
I don't know that we can approve that option. I'm not opposed to it, but can we do that?
Oh, we can.
We can make any
we can-
condition we want.
Yeah, we can approve something that you can do either A or B.
Then, accepting the friendly amendment, I would further add as a condition that the garage doors on the rear of the existing structure be not larger than the existing doors.
That works. Any size up to,
John, what was the first condition?
First condition is we are not approving in any way any tree removal.
Okay, sorry, the second one about the shutters?
Second is we are noting for the record that the applicant may decide not to install any shutters whatsoever. And the third condition being that the garage doors on the rear of the existing structure, which I believe is where you intend to put them, be not larger than the existing garage doors.
And do you, would approve if I did decide to do the board and batten shutters? Is that, okay.
Yeah, what you've proposed would be, is approved if you choose to go that route. But you have the option to not.
You have the option to decide to put no shutters on whatsoever.
Thank you.
Put what's drawn or none.
Okay.
Right, the motion has been made and seconded and amended. The amendment has been accepted. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll poll the commissioners. Richard?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eric, yes? And
John, yes?
And yes.
Dave, yes.
congratulations, you have your certificate of
Thank you.
appropriateness.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you, and lady, thank you very, very much. You've given us a lot of your time today and twice before. We appreciate it very much. And I cannot compliment your village staff too much. They have done yeoman work to help us with percentages of coverage and all of that kind of thing. We appreciate your staff very much, Alex. Thank you.
Appreciate them too.
Appreciate them, and thank you for their patience, your patience for working through all of
Wonderful.
this. We appreciate that.
All right, and our third and final case is,
Third and next to final.
Next to file. We could take a quick break?
sure,
Okay, let's take
take a 10-minute break.
10-minute break.
The hearing is back in session, and the third case, of 4, is COA 2022-00005, involving 125 Kelly Road. Is the applicant here? Would you come forward, sir? Would you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Dan Degree, D-E-G-R-E.
You? Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated. Alex, would you like to present the case?
Love to. So the third public hearing for tonight is for a COA of the property at 125 Kelly Road. The applicant, as just sworn in before the commission, is Dan Degree of Step 1 Design. He is representing the owners you see listed. The purpose of this public hearing is a major COA for the change in garage doors from 2 separate single bay doors to 1 large double bay door, as well as the addition of a rear screen porch, as well as screening in a previously approved rear porch, as well as screening in a previously approved front porch. The property is identified as Moore County Parcel ID number 000-14377. So a little bit more on that background of this request. Original home was there on the property, built in 1950. It was demolished. Obviously, a major COA was issued for that a couple years ago. A new single family was approved by this commission previously in April of last year. This request is to modify that previous approval. Obviously, the project is under construction at the moment. The right side elevation included 3 single bay doors. This request to modify would be to take 2 of those single bays to the right and combine those into 1 double bay door. The rear porch is proposed to be screened in. There's a front porch that's kind of internal. It's on the front elevation, the street side elevation. It's somewhat internal to a courtyard area there. It's proposed to be screened in as well. Minor work was recently issued for some other changes on the property that may be relevant, and that's changing the colors you see listed there from what was previously approved. The design of the garage door overall was really not proposed to change from what was approved, just the dimension. Furthermore, the rear porch area, by definition, to be screened in because it is not visible necessarily from the street and on the rear, could be a minor work approval. The front porch area, of course, is, therefore it is a major work, in addition to adding or eliminating windows and doors, which we talked a lot about in our previous meeting before this, also considered major work items. Here's a public hearing notification map. You see the property again, kind of right dead center. The structure footprint you see there, of course, is the footprint of the demolished 1940 structure. Again, properties owners there to receive notification of the public hearing. Indicated change, the top image there, you see where the 2 single bay doors are proposed to be changed to allow for the double bay, which you see at the bottom. Here is the best image. Again, some of the detail and scanned images coming through may not be able to be picked up on by everyone looking at the screen, so apologize for that. The rear screened-in porch is on the top. You got a rear elevation as well as a left elevation showing that area. On the bottom, you see the front elevation of the screen porch area as well as the, I believe that's a right side elevation showing that area as well. Here's our much shorter list of applicable standards for this. Windows and doors, adding new windows and door openings or altering or filling openings. Again, it's a little odd. It's because language is for existing. It is existing because it's been approved and is under construction. It's intended to be fully closed out, inspected, and occupied. But those changes should not compromise the architectural character of the structure and must be congruous with the historic district. Porches, entrances, and balconies. Any alterations to porches, entrances, and balconies on street-facing elevations must be compatible with the architecture character of the structure and must be congruous with similar elements in the historic district. And street-facing porches, entrances should be compatible in height and character with the existing structure. The rest of it's really not relevant, that it be based historical evidence, given that it was appropriate to that style of structure. So to conclude the staff's kind of comments on this, the garage door request is not inconsistent with the standards. The standard there is compatible with architecture character. And I say that because the overall design and style, materials and color will not change, just the dimension, door dimensions, the overall area of the 3 single bay doors would still be basically the same total area. It's just that 2 are now absorbed into 1. It is not a prominent feature on the front facade since it is located on the right side elevation. Obviously, double garage doors with an additional smaller or single car door are quite prevalent and present in the district. The screening in again of rear porches, this request checks the box, meets the standards, can be a minor work approval. The one that does not is, of course, the area there in the front that again is kind of nestled in, as you can see, within the documents provided by the applicant, as well as a floor plan. It's kind of like an interior, somewhat recessed courtyard area. So what the commission would need to do is determine if that front porch area and the door change is compatible with the architectural character of the structure and, of course, congruous with the district. And, of course, at this time, formally entered staff report, any exhibits and attachments associated with this presentation and all the applicant's material that were forwarded to the commission prior to the hearing into the record.
Without objection, the materials referred to by staff are admitted into the record. Any questions for Mr. Cameron?
Yeah, Alex, there's no standard on point regarding screened porches on the front? Or is there?
Not that, the only differentiation between front, side, rear, et cetera, is that minor work items screening in side or rear porch is not visible from the street can be a minor work. The only other standards apply, reading through the document, are in the porches, entrances, and balconies of all. And it just say that they shall be compatible with the structure and congruous with the district. Not that it shouldn't encompass a certain area or the material be this or visibility of one or the other.
Do we know the material of the screen,
Fiberglass.
fiberglass? So it's that, it's
It's-
a high grade that doesn't, it almost
Yeah,
doesn't.
and it's invisible.
Right?
It's black and, it's
It is
black and
invisible.
mostly invisible and covers very large areas, so there's no structure in between the posts. It's barely noticeable.
Now, you've indicated the door that will be screened in, but we don't actually have a description of what the screen porch itself will look like?
You mean like with the screening, like a visual of the porch with the screening
What
material?
the walls will look like and so forth?
I don't think there's no walls. It's an existing porch, John. The footprint's, it's already approved, it's already under roof, it's there. It's just, you're just going to screen the area in.
Okay.
Any further questions for Alex? Mr. Degree, would you like to add anything in support of your application?
Yeah, the reason for changing from the 2 single doors to a large double door is just that that side yard is fairly tight, and it's hard to navigate the turn. So if we put the double door in, we can take the center post out, and it's just going to, especially at night and in bad weather, it's just going to make it a lot easier for the homeowner to get in and out of the garage. The look will be very, very similar. The screen is obvious, you know, with the bugs that we have here, so that it's more friendly to use during the summer months. The one in the front is a little porch that has a set of French doors that comes out of the breakfast area, so they'll have lunch out there in breakfast in the morning, And it's the same thing. We just want to keep the bugs out.
You'd leave the doors open and have breakfast in the breakfast room, is that
If
right?
we get the screen, we will.
Well said, well said. Any other questions? Any questions, excuse me?
The day that I went by, they were installing I think, a gas line on the other side, so couldn't spend quite as much time as I. That is not the front door to the house. The front door to the house is the one to the left of that.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
So
You
the
don't have a
total,
sample-
go ahead.
You don't have a sample of the screen material at all? No?
Uh,
Company or anything?
Yeah, it's called Screenies.
The total width of those 4 doors doesn't change, so you're not going to bring them smaller. It's going to be the same footprint. So the
That's correct.
2 doors coming are actually going to be slightly bigger to make up.
Yes, so the single doors combined had an opening of 20 feet. The double door will have an opening of 18 feet.
Is a slightly smaller space by 2 feet.
That is correct.
That was my question, whether you're going to end up with the same or whether it was changed.
They don't make a 20-foot wide door that we can purchase.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. As I said earlier, if there is any member of the public who wishes to present any evidence either in support of or in opposition to this application, please come forward at this time and identify yourself. I see no volunteers. Therefore, the evidentiary portion of this hearing is concluded, and the commission will deliberate.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2022, quadruple 6, and find the proposed major work at 35 Orange Road consistent with the Historic District standards.
David, I think we're on 05. On Kelly Road, not Orange.
I beg your pardon. That's not the first
Strike
time I've
those
done that.
words. Strike those words.
Sorry. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness for the right COA number 2022 quadruple 5 and find the proposed major work at 125 Kelly Road is consistent with Historic District standards and is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the material submitted, and the findings of fact.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I will note that I intend to vote in favor of this motion. This will be the third time that I have voted in favor of what is being done at 125 Kelly Road, and I think you're doing a fine job.
Thank you.
I will poll the commissioners. Richard? Tom?
Yes.
Eric, yes?
John, yes?
And yes?
David, yes.
Congratulations, you have your certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, what you're doing so far looks really nice, so.
I appreciate that.
All right, and then our last case, COA 2022-406, involving 35 Orange Road. Would you mind standing at the other mic while I swear you in? Would you state your name for the record, please, and spell your last name?
Thomas O'Connor, Oconnor.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Alex, will you present the case?
Yes, for the final time tonight, I'll gladly get us started. Of course, subject property 35 Orange Road, owner applicant, Mr. O'Connor before us. Purpose of this public hearing is for a major COA request for the demolition of an existing accessory building / structure and construction of a new detached garage at 35 Orange Road, further identified as Moore County parcel ID number 000285352. Again, we have a request to, basically two requests, each kind of somewhat separate and independent of one another. One is to demo the existing accessory building. The original home was built in 1914. Not real sure, no accurate data on the date of construction that staff could find on the subject building to be demolished. There was another accessory, actually a dwelling or cottage, based on discussions with Mr. O'Connor, that was approved early on in the, with respect to having a historic district and commission in 2007 for the demolition of that, of course. Mr. O'Connor's given us some photographic examples of the condition, the structural condition and integrity of the existing building there. Is also non-conforming as far as setbacks, which is not uncommon in that area or just next door. The proposed new building will obviously have to be compliant with setbacks and located in the rear yard. The exterior material for the proposed new construction is fiber cement lap siding with a white composite trim. Obviously, both applications that this commission and staff sees quite often and does closely resemble that of wood lap siding. Again, this request is before you guys, considered major work because it is demolition of an existing outbuilding that is greater than 120 square feet, as well as new accessory buildings that exceed a dimension greater than 12 feet. Public hearing notification map, you can kind of see the area there on Orange Road facing the hashed area, of course, subject property, the primary structure kind of oriented to the right and front. It was previously 2 lots that were originally platted out that have been kind of absorbed together and combined. The footprint you see in the back and the rear there is, again, this not updated information from the county's tax department. That must have been previously used structure. It's not the structure per this request to be demoed. You can see the neighboring properties there and how they relate to where this area of the new construction and the demolition are. This is an image of material that was provided by the applicant. Is based on a survey that was done a handful of years ago. You can see the survey clearly indicating the location of the subject structure to be demoed. There again, like the aerial in the previous slide, you can kind of see Orange Road there to the top and right. You see where the Holly Inn parking area there is again, and kind of how and where the structure and the lot is oriented with its neighbors. And then we'll see in a future slide a depiction of where the proposed new footprint for the accessory building will be, meeting the 10-foot side and rear setbacks in the R10 zoning district. Here's some images that were prepared, obviously labeled within the packet, Exhibit C, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see different elevations of the structure. You can see the material and see the condition. The image on the right is depicting basically the 20 by 20 footprint proposed for the new construction and how it would meet the 10-foot setbacks. You see the existing structure on the back rear there is of just shy of 8 feet from that property line. The rest of it is just about the same, non-conforming on the other side. The neighbor there has a existing structure that is just on their property, but also non-compliant with setbacks. So the proposal would be more compliant and moving it a little bit further away from that neighboring structure. Also, you'll see the applicant has provided a sketch, and this is one elevation that I included in the presentation, depicting the design of the structure, the windows, the size of the garage doors, the height. And the applicant also provided the proposed roof pitch and the pitch that the neighboring structure there, that he's the design element that he's shooting for. Applicable standards, again, these are going to apply to residential new construction. For the new garage, of course, all accessory structures is going through these before, must be compatible with the principal structure, and of course, features, scale, size, materials, as well as other accessory buildings in the district. Must be equal or lower in height than the primary structure. Mr. O'Connor has indicated to me that, of course, the proposal for the detached building is 20 feet in height, and that the existing structure at the lowest is about 25 feet in height, so this will be subordinate and at least equal or lower than the primary structure. Detached garages and accessory buildings for new residential structure must be set behind the front facade, so this is completely behind, based on the nature that it's a fairly deep lot in that area, behind the primary structure, as well as way in the rear, is just off the 10-foot setbacks. Demolition, of course, the commission, any commission in the state of North Carolina can approve or delay a demolition for a period of up to a full calendar year. The only requirement that we have in our standards is that the debris must be removed within 30 days, but we also have other nuisance teeth for that, not really applicable in the historic standards. So to kind of conclude staff's review of the proposals before you, the new detached garage is consistent with the standards as it is compatible with the main structure and others in the district in design, color, material, scale. It's also quite set back from the primary structure and clearly located in the rear yard. And that based on the applicant's information of the existing primary structure and what he has provided in his sketch, that it will have a lower height and a similar pitch of other structures in the district. Again, for the last time, formally enter into the record staff report with attachments, as well as this presentation and any of the applicant's material that has been given to staff to forward to the commission prior to the hearing.
Without objection, the materials referred to are admitted into the record. Questions for Alex?
Alex, is 10 feet the correct setback for this sort of structure? There's a reference on one of the other exhibits to a 15-foot setback.
Yeah, that would be for the primary structure, but 10 foot is the correct for the accessory structure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Alex?
Just a procedural question. Do we need two motions, one for demolition and one for
Yes, we
the
do.
other
Probably.
question? Okay, thank you.
Mr. O'Connor, would you like to add anything in support of your application?
I appreciate you taking my rudimentary drawings. And actually,
You may get some questions about them. I'm
Alex
not
took
making
them.
any promises.
And Alex had asked me earlier today for some photographs of the main house, which I sent, just so you guys can see that I'm going to basically have the garage model the front of the cottage, basically a 12 by 12, 45-degree pitch. I've got two little historic window insets, and then the rest of the cottage is 6/1. So the two left and right elevations of the garage will have a 6/1, and then I'll have the front of the gable model the house.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, sir.
You, about your historic windows? On the sketch provided, those are illustrated as 3 wide, 2 high windows. On the existing cottage, they're 2 wide, 3 high. Do you intend them to be 2 wide, 3 high?
No, I intended my drawing to mirror the house.
Okay. On that same drawing, there's a window centered on the gable, up high.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, on the existing cottage, that is a louver. Yeah, I presume venting the attic. Is this going to be a window or a louver?
Well, frankly, it'll be whatever you think it should be, because.
Louver would be really good.
Great, yeah, whatever, I mean, I know I have to vent that, but whatever you guys think is best, we will do it.
Also, in your written letter, to be clear, on page 2 of your letter, the second paragraph has been superseded by the 10-foot setback. So are we understanding that you're removing that paragraph from your application? Do we need to even bother with that, Eric? One that starts, a new footprint will be created extending blah, 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 and it talks about its width, 8 feet to the side elevation.
Oh,
and so forth.
excuse me, yeah, that was before I discovered that it had to be 10.
Yeah, okay, so are we in agreement that that paragraph is no longer valid?
Yes.
And
Is
lastly,
that technically part of the application?
Well, it could be technically part of it, but we don't get to pull it. He gets to pull it.
do you pull it?
Absolutely.
Pull. First paragraph.
Chair so rules.
Thank you. Last part of the first paragraph on page 2 ends with the with the power supply as solar batteries. Are there solar panels as part of this application?
No, I'm just saying that the electric for this building will be one or the other. I just haven't decided what they're going to be yet. I think the easiest thing for me to do is just draw my power from my box as it was originally to that building.
Would you be willing to remove the last three words or solar batteries?
Absolutely.
So removed.
And is approved.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other questions for,
Oh, sorry, missed one. On your listing of materials, exterior materials and colors, the first two columns are labeled as existing. I'm presuming you're speaking of the to-be demolished building.
Yes.
In the third column under windows, it says the windows are composite windows.
I'm not sure how to respond to that. I just know that I'm going to be ordering the same windows for the garage that I did for the house. And
You know if
so,
they're wood or they vinyl or they aluminum?
No, they're vinyl.
Vinyl. Can we agree then that you're going to change the word from composite to vinyl?
Yes.
changes noted and approved.
And lastly, there's no comment about the material or the color of the front door. Front door meaning side door.
Oh,
There's
the
no-
side door, no, that was just an omission on my part.
What will it be?
It will likely be, it'll be a wood door,
Solid wood door?
solid wood door.
No panels, just flat, solid
Panels.
wood door? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. O'Connor?
In the beginning, I recall many months ago, you came and you said, bear with me, this project's gonna unfold and you're gonna be back multiple times, kind of unpacking this property. It's a little hard to see the garage without a driveway. What are you, I know it's not in front of us, but can you walk me through what the garage doors are gonna look like and kind of what your vision is for how you get here? Because it's kind of on its own little island back there.
Yeah, with respect to what type of material, how the garage doors will
Yeah, so
open?
garage doors, what do you envision them looking like? And then, is that it right there?
Well, that's my neighbor Don, right, which is 8 feet away. So those are the doors that he has. So I imagine I would just do something similar with just doors that just open out.
Swinging doors.
Swinging doors, excuse
A
me.
carriage door.
2 pairs?
Yes.
Okay.
You're asking about the driveway, Richard?
Yeah, I'm just
Kind
trying
of
to,
goes
I'm trying to figure out, yeah, because it's,
sort of halfway back and then it,
So,
well, there's no material right now. It's just earth.
it's actually gravel. Well, it's gravel up to, the driveway basically does an L. It's gravel, and then it turns, and it's gravel of maybe 15 by 15 area for 2 cars to park facing the cottage.
Okay.
But then it's earth going back to the garage.
Okay.
And will remain that way as far as this application goes?
Yes. And if I choose to come back later and continue it, maybe bluestone or something, I'll just come back. And I frankly don't even imagine this garage is gonna be used for much more than tools and a golf cart.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. O'Connor? Hearing none, as I said earlier, do you want to testify? You're the last person in the room. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, that concludes the evidentiary portion of this hearing, and the commissioners will now,
question for Alex. Do we need separate COAs for the demolition and the construction?
yes. So if
Just assign a number so we know what to put in the motion.
The application is under quadruple 06. It would cover a demolition and new construction. What the commission has to done for cleaner purposes is to basically, make a motion to demo the existing and then a separate motion to approve the new construction. But they are.
But under the same COA number?
They under same COA number, application, everything.
All right, are you ready to make a motion, make two motions?
I will certainly make one motion.
All right.
You can use the one I discarded.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2022 quadruple 06, approving the demolition of the existing structure at 35 Orange Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll poll the commissioners. Richard?
Aye.
Tom?
Yeah, aye.
Eric?
John, aye.
And, yes.
Aye.
Okay, that's one.
And I'll also move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2022 quadruple 06, and find the proposed major work at 35 Orange Road consistent with historic district standards and congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the materials submitted, and the findings of fact.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll poll the commissioners. Richard?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Eric, aye.
John, aye.
And, yes.
Aye.
Congratulations, you have your two
Thank you very
certificates. Mr. O'Connor, there are some things that one is required to do in connection with the demolition in the historic district. I assume you'll coordinate with Alex and just make sure that you complied with any of those requirements. For example, if there's a treasure chest in the old building, you have to share it with you have to report it, sorry.
And actually, originally I had a demo permit for this structure and then the old cottage, and I just decided at that time just to do the old cottage because this structure was a nice visual frame for the depth of the lot. Knowing sometime in the future I'd come back, and so thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed seeing the progress over there.
Yes, it looks great.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Definitely improvements.
Thanks. Alex, thank you.
All right, that concludes the public hearing. May I have a motion to close the public hearing and return to the regular commission meeting?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes, and we are now in the regular meeting. This is a public meeting, and you are all welcome to stay and observe, but only members of the commission and its staff may speak. We have been furnished with the minor work and staff approvals. Anybody have any questions about those? Any other business?
Next
Anybody
work
want
session.
to discuss scheduling another work session? Or shall we defer that to another time? Schedule.
Let's set it now, yeah.
If staff is ready, I would propose again 2 to 4 prior to our next regularly scheduled meeting,
Alex?
assuming they'll be ready and that's a productive use of time.
It definitely gives me some time to work on some changes based on our discussions today and maybe think about some additional material. I will say, you know, when we set the meetings up today and previously, it worked better in December than it did in January. Obviously, you know, didn't know that we would be shorthanded as we are, so it didn't allow me as much time to apply to it as I would really, as I think it deserves. And really, that, you know, deserves the time of us all together and deliberating on it. It's just doing 2 sets of agendas and packs of material due at the same time. You know, we all saw Tom's email communication, liking to have the material ahead of the regular meeting. You know, I don't know how feasible that is, but I mean, I'll do my best to do whatever we can to make work.
How about, given you're shorthanded, that we not do one before the coming meeting, but do it March?
Sure.
Would that be better for you, or?
I really wish I knew. I mean, before.
You don't know the caseload.
You know, I don't know. We've got some important things coming up next week and the coming weeks outside of the jurisdiction of the Historic Preservation Commission. in our group. We're already under fire on a few other items. There are always fires to be put out day to day. Also, what I would fear is waiting too long. It takes me a little bit longer to get back in that mindset as I get involved in other items. So let me just look at my calendar. I mean, it can work. It does make for a long day. It makes for a hellacious 10, 15 days ahead of it. Other than revising some language that we talked about today, I'm trying to, if we could talk about maybe some topics that we want to work together, it'll give me an idea of how much material I may need to really apply. I think working a little bit of the language that we talked about today obviously won't take much. Going through and trying to consolidate what we've gotten up to this point will take a while. I know Shannon's already, as she always does, tried to get ahead of it and help me out a little bit because she's been present during a lot of these, so she knows where to find the material as well. One thing that I know that I kind of want to discuss is ability for maybe looking at the language of accessory buildings size that staff could approve as a minor work. I don't know where to stop that. 12 feet. I don't know where that came from to begin with. I would have challenged that if I had that opportunity at the time. Is it a percentage of the main structure? Is it, what is that number then? But I would like to have some communication with you guys, and also that it be strictly located in the rear yard only, not rear or side, but strictly rear yard. That's something staff can easily apply and determine where the rear yard is. That it be, the similar materials of the main structure, meaning you're not doing something that's a different material or different color. It's got to be compatible. Got to be lower in height. All that stuff that we can apply. Now, I don't want it to mean that staff can approve a 1,100 square foot detached building either. So is it 20 by 20? Is it 400 square feet? I would like to have those discussions. So that is one thing. And heard you on signage. That gets tricky. It can get tricky. I've got to cross-reference a few other items. You've been willing to work and draft language on other items, so we could probably even connect in the meantime.
Do we want to talk about, since that one case brought up screens on the front, should that be something too that we address?
It could be.
First case we've had in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe the first in.
Yeah.
Case.
And starting from scratch on something might be a little more involved than I'm probably ready to do, but I'll rely on some of you too, if there's something you can think of. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I want to take a stab at Windows, but I'm hoping you all will read that website and see if you have the stomach for that before I spend any time on it.
And two, we've heard previously, this is something I think we need to do on an annual basis, honestly, but if we get something together based on all these meetings, that doesn't mean we stop there. I want to get something, I want this commission to be comfortable with making some recommendations on some changes, get council prepped for it, get it in front of them for them to consider those changes, and that doesn't mean we don't look at better detail. There's the standards in here that say it must be congruent. We know it's got to be, you've got to determine congruity. Our standards need to be your more specific tool to help you find. There was, with that great committee that got bogged down for 2.5 years, kind of lost its way a little bit. And
Little bit?
And at the end, just decided, well, we'll just throw this in there because we always have that we can judge, right? So also, what about all these shoulds? There's a greater detail I think we need to do and stay involved with, but we've made some great progress, I think, in having a better flow, not bogging you guys down, bogging applicants down, bogging staff down with real minor items and details, and I think we're almost ready for that.
if I could make a proposal, we schedule one for, just like we have been, in front of the next meeting, so at 2 o'clock on the same day we have our meeting. However, Alex, if you would be so kind, seeing you're shorthanded, and you aren't really what's coming at you, because none of us are any good at predicting the future anyway, that if about a week out, it does not look like we have enough material, that you can have enough material put together, that we make an agreement that you can call and we'll consider canceling that and going back to the 4 o'clock start time. Does that make sense?
I think for now, especially if it worked for you, because I like having at least this amount of you guys. Before, when we were having the three of us together, we tabled some items, and rightfully so, because you want to, get more input from the commission. If that works for you guys, we'll try to make something work. But with these special meetings, we only have a 48-hour required notice to get this posted. So we've got some time. Now, in order to get the online agenda and the material posted, that's going to be the week before. So I think what we can do is mark our calendars tentatively for the 24th. Sorry. It looks like Assembly Hall is open during that time frame.
Okay.
So I can go ahead and book that. I can have it on my calendar. Next Thursday is the deadline for submittals for next month. So by next Thursday, I'm already going to start having some sort of outlook on what's coming. So I can get back in touch with you all in the next week.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I would propose that we schedule it for then.
Yeah.
And then if it's looking like we get closer to that, Alex, and I think we're going to have to rely on you for a feel for that, we can call it off instead of trying to get here and then calling it off after we get here. Even 48 hours, 4 days, something like that ahead of time, give us some kind of idea of whether we're going to have enough to really do it. Does that make sense to you, sir?
Does?
Makes sense to me. Anybody feel otherwise?
Keep the momentum going.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to
In that
keep the
case,
But do we have a deadline for voting something or on something to, no? Shouldn't we do a self-imposed now?
Well, we could do a self-imposed.
Well, God forbid, okay.
The problem is then the next thing you know, something like COVID comes up and bites you in the butt. So.
Yeah, but Alex, isn't there a point you'd like to get something up to the council? You don't want this dragging on like forever.
No, been there, done that.
Yeah.
That one was, we didn't have much choice, but we had quite a good luck with, we just got some amendments done last fall or end of last summer. They were statutorily related.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, if we set a goal, which is there's absolutely nothing wrong with setting a goal to do something, but the problem becomes staffing on the staff side, because if he's shorthanded,
Yeah, but maybe
they get
by a
somebody in
certain-
here in the next couple of
Maybe by a
weeks.
certain date, whatever we've accomplished, we send up or something, right?
And
Just to-
I think we're almost there. The only thing is, to your point, getting something out of our hands, your hands,
Yeah.
to council is realistic. Getting something adopted, we don't know. I'm hoping they've been, keep staying involved.
Well, as long as they understand that this is going to be an ongoing process and that it will come up in pieces, it's not going to be some massive overview, because that's exactly what got us into problems the first time, is we waited and never made any interim changes to things.
but what we have been doing has been focusing on trying to refine the distinctions between major work and minor
Right.
work, staff responsibility and HPC responsibility.
I think for the purpose of making the overall process more efficient for everyone.
That's correct. And so, I think, my understanding anyway, is that what we're trying to do is to complete that process. Not to say that we won't come back to some of those issues later, because we may find some of our decisions don't work.
Right.
Or don't work as well as we thought. But that's where we ought to be headed.
Right. Focus on that.
And I think, basically, judging by earlier today, I think we're getting pretty close.
I mean, I like Ann's idea of actually having a deadline to work against, but I'd like to be sure when we set that deadline that we actually have enough information to set a reasonable deadline.
It's attainable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll try to do that at this next session.
We,
All right.
we'll, to your point, we'll have yet another better idea of where we are. And then, we can maybe tackle, again, different objectives annually. signage, windows.
Fences,
We've
swing
already,
sets.
we've already worked it,
100
we've already done
things.
fences. So stop.
There's 100
Playhouses.
things.
Playhouses. Yeah.
No, continue. I mean, we're going to have changes in this thing if we do it the right way continuously as thing goes on. Yeah, it has to be.
Okay, Mr. Chair, go for it.
Boom.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.